Hello, everyone. Jess Claire here with the incredible Tom Forts Mayer, the most enlightened human on the planet, for sure of it.
Definitely the most humble. Definitely
the most humble, because humble is definitely the way to be in life.
Being the most humble is the most
being the most humble. Yeah, because if you're the most humble, then you definitely look the best, and people definitely think you're enlightened.
Yeah.
So here you are. Welcome, everyone. We are having an interesting episode tonight. I was talking to Tom about, hello, Gary. I was talking to Tom about this topic and going, is everything like we're going for an orgasm in everything? And there's a reason for that as well. We wanted to actually talk about that experience that happens right after an orgasm. Quite an interesting topic for, 9 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. But if you are interested in exploring this with us tonight, we wanted to draw on how these things are related to everything that we're driving in life. So if you are jumping on in Earth Elders, please do say hello. Hello, Kylie. Hello,
Hi,
Christy. And
hey, Gary. Evening, gorgeous. Is that for Jess or me? I'm just like to be clear on that.
I think that's Gary. I think it's for me. He's one of my long-term followers. Yeah. It could be for you. So firstly, we want to explain what we mean by this, so that we can absolutely expand on what is mean. Are we seeking the orgasm in everything? It is intentionally worded that way. Both. There you go. It is for you.
Thanks,
as well.
Gary. That's very kind of you.
Hey, it is intentionally worded that way because there's an experience that happens right after the orgasm that I've gotten quite interested in this week. And I'm always, I don't mean it like that. I mean, I haven't been like.
Sorry, that sounds like you had a lot of really good orgasms this week and you're paying a lot of attention to them. Okay.
Anyway.
I'm orgasm positive. It's fine. Now you're positive.
Well, yeah, I am. So I find there's this drive that I think we've had, and we have talked about this, for that experience of oneness, of wholeness, of feeling connected to everything. And one of the things that I've been considering is the experiences in which we actually have that is right after an orgasm and giving birth. They're the two times that I know for myself that there's this super peace. Like it's a peace like no other. It's it's so connected. It's absolutely ridiculously, I don't know, maybe it's the best experience that we could ever have. But it's after the orgasm. So it's after that. It's after giving birth. I mean, I know you haven't given birth, but as someone that has, it's like, there's like this intense, energetic, release. And then right at that moment, there's this ridiculously connected experience as well. Like your baby is coming out, it's on you. It's like, and I think we experience that with another human as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, oxytocin is hugely released at those moments, if your system's like optimally. And oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It creates the sensation of connection. And a really profound state of connection is always a spiritual state. And so, even the word from religion, relegere from Latin means to reconnect. The yoga means to join, right? It's like, it's the connected state, right? And so in the coming together of the two energies and creating connection, and then it peaking with a creative force of orgasm, and then it's like everything's come together, literally, and it's like, that choral sense in the background of everything being as it should be. We're ultimately connected. It's our relationships are a kind of metaphor for our spiritual yearning, and we put all this pressure on our partners because we know that there's this merging that we long for, this merging that we can experience when we kiss or when we have sex or when we orgasm. But it's like, it is a spiritual state that we're seeking, you know? And of course, the reason why we experience it so beautifully after that moment of release is because we're no longer seeking it, right? We're in the experience. Whereas we spend so much, like you say in this kind of, in the chat, in the titles of this, we spend so much time seeking connection. When I first started formulating my model of psychology, I called it reconnection psychology, because I was like, my work's about reconnecting people to that state. But then I was like, but that's a bullshit term, because the connection never goes. It's only the reconnection is only in our perception. So that's a crap name for it. You know, it's like, well, then I should just call it connection psychology, but no one knew what that meant. But it's like, so many of us spend time searching for the experience that we naturally are. And in the search, we are perpetuating the sense of separation that we're trying to run away from.
Now, I find this really, really interesting, right? Suddenly my screen has gone really small, so I'm just going to make this bigger. I really would love you guys to interact on this. Maybe it's not safe to interact on this because, you know, the word orgasm on social media might be a bit too much, maybe. I don't know. But I would love you to, you know, talk about this experience. Thank you, Gary, for starting everyone off. It's this. What Tom was pointing to is we're all seeking this. So I got interested in this as well, because it's like, you know, there's thank you. Of course.
Let's be clear on it. We're pro-orgasm. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's Emily. It's Emily Kate, of course. Of course. She's sex-pressed. Run sex-pressed. I can't even say it. But when I was thinking about it, you know, when I think of some of the things and some of the issues in which we're dealing with at the moment, we're dealing with, you know, porn addiction, we're dealing with sex addictions, we're dealing with love addictions, we're dealing with addictions in any sense, where I was like, I wonder what's at the source of this, right? You know, I wonder what's really driving this. You get people that have some sort of dysfunctional relationship with sex. Well, is it a dysfunctional relationship with sex, or is it a dysfunctional relationship with connection, in which we seek what we know will be a quick fix, what we think. We have Tinder, we have all these sorts of apps that make it available, but, you know, are we really getting what we're seeking? If is sex the precursor to, if I get the sex, then I'm going to get that experience and therefore I'm going to feel connected. But actually in the seeking of it, we lose the actual connection part because we're not seeking the connection.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my understanding and my experience of changing our relationship to how we have sex is the key to understanding how to relate to reality in a connected state, and it not be about chasing, right? And so you know, when I first discovered tantric sex, you know, my teacher was like, okay, so like if 10 is orgasm and 0 is no kind of arousal, you know, are you the kind of person where you're like, you kind of like 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 10, and ideally, you know, for slightly longer than that. But I was like, yeah, that's kind of like, you know, you're peaking, and then she's like, yeah, I want you just to rock out at 6. Because I want you to get to 6 and I want you just to stay at 6. I'm like, so you want me to have boring sex? This is it. You want me to have boring sex? She's like, yeah, I want you to have sex that isn't going anywhere. And she's like, I want you to slow down and I want you to feel everything. Like feel everything, but not with the context of trying to get something.
Yeah.
And so the reason why there's been such an explosion of tantric sex and conscious sexuality is because actually our sex is the very place where our materialism turns up, and all of our hunting and all of our craving, right? And we might get the temporary fix of an orgasm and the momentary pause and peace of it and the glory of that. And it teaches us about already being full and already being connected. But actually, it's in the interplay of the presence, in the actual experience of life, where we feel into the fullness and we get super present. It's like if I try and get super present in the shower and I'm looking at all the water drops and I'm paying attention to the temperature on my skin and all of that, I don't know, I can maybe do that for 10 minutes, right? But sex is got so much pleasure in it that it fills us with so much reward in each and every moment, each and every aspect of it, that every millimeter of movement can be fucking heavenly. And it's like, it's already here, it's already there, there's nowhere to get to, you know? And it's like, and then we're ideally into a place where instead of having these like micro orgasms just based around our genitals, you know, where we might feel peaceful afterwards, we're able to have these full-bodied experiences which are orgasmic, ongoingly orgasmic, as opposed to endingly orgasmic, you know? And so for me, it's why conscious sexuality is such a powerful spiritual force. It's not about sex. It's using sex as a meditation to completely do what meditation is designed to do, but is frankly can be quite boring. You know, it's like it's retraining a whole relationship. And so my tantra teacher's like, you're trying to do this point where you can walk down the fruit aisle in the supermarket and feel like you are making love to the moment as you walk through the supermarket.
This is what I was sort of getting to as well, is that inside of an experience like that, you can then bring the experience of pleasure, not just in a sexual nature. You could bring it into life, in any part of your life. And then I think, well, is that the same seeking? Is it in our jobs? Are we seeking that same thing? And the fulfillment of our own, like anything we're doing, are we sort of seeking the same thing? Except we're not getting it because we're driving and driving and driving, and we're not taking that moment to go, imagine if you were, I mean, just as we got on here, right? I was like, oh God, I don't know about this. Might kill my brand. You know, putting the word orgasm in, you know, the topic here. And then you went, and we both went, hang on, the worst way to kill your brand is trying not to. You know?
Yeah, I spent years. I mean, honestly, my weekly calls with you, Jess, have been an experiment in being as much myself as I could possibly be, not giving a shit about what I say, because it mainly goes out to people in Australia, which is a long way away from my central core business. Although now I'm getting loads of clients from Australia, which is amazing, right? Thanks to you, mainly. But what's happened is I've been enjoying it more, right? And I think people have been engaging with it more because we're enjoying ourselves. You're like almost pathologically authentic, and you know, and you know, I hope what we're demonstrating and what we're experiencing, and I'm not doing this to create an effect. I do this because this is fun for me. It's really fun for me to have these conversations and to try and bring as much of myself to it by not trying to be anything other than what feels like being said without any filter, you know?
Yeah, and we're not trying to get anywhere here. We're actually not trying to convince anyone of anything. We're not trying to solve a problem. We're not trying to like get anyone to believe us. We're legitimately not trying to get anywhere here.
Fuck, this is tantric television.
I was just going to say it's tantric conversations.
Tantric conversations, that's better. That's way better. You stick to branding. You can't help it. Yeah.
That's right. I know. You know, but I didn't even know that was the case. But and when I think of the times that, like, I mean, even in my business, you know, I set sales targets. I set targets, but it's almost like the setting of the target needs to happen, right? Ultimately, I do, you know, I'm just going to be clear. Ultimately, I do want to have orgasms. Okay, ultimately. I want to put that as like the sales goal, right? But there is the not worrying about it, the putting it aside, going, okay, that's great, it's something that I want to experience, but it's not the thing to focus on. It is not the thing that's going to bring me joy in the moment. And the more that I focus on it, the very more unlikely that it's going to happen in a way that's going to be very satisfying and fulfilling anyway.
Yep.
It's like the mere drive actually kills the goal.
Totally. So my partner and I, you know, are kind of, sometimes it's stated overtly and sometimes we just know that's how we interact. It's like we're going to connect. We have no attachment to where it's going to go. We don't need it to go anywhere. Either of us can stop at any point, and it doesn't have to look a certain way or feel a certain way or perform in a certain way. Neither of us are responsible. We're connecting and exploring from our own pleasure. We're not responsible to give anyone any kind of an experience. You know, it sounds like a prenup before having shagged, but essentially it's a foundational set of understanding in how we want to relate and connect, you know, and that creates space. It creates just a lot of space to be curious and turn up, but it creates that a way of connecting where each moment becomes delicious, you know, because I'm actually there. Because if your eye is on the goal, then you're not going to bring your full presence to the experience, and therefore even the goal might be satisfying, but it's like if along the way every moment has been satisfying because in itself it's had rights and justice, because it's full, it's not a stepping stone. And a lot of people don't realize the dictionary definition of lust is nothing to do with sex. The dictionary definition of lust is usury. You know, it's using someone to get somewhere. Now that's most commonly turns up in sex. But in terms of we're being lustful in the moment, it's like, well, I'm going to do this to your body and you're going to do this to my body to get something. Then we're being sexual from a perspective of lust. It's usury, you know, it's like actually, you know, you're masturbating with each other's bodies, right? Whereas actually, if you're getting into presence and it's an opening of heart to the glory of the divine moment through connection, where there's nothing other than what you're experiencing right now, then no one's using anyone. It's like the deepest self-expression, self-acceptance, total vulnerability, authenticity, nothing expected, nothing required. And it's like that state is exactly how we would benefit walking through life. Exactly the same principles. You know, so each fucking moment has the orgasm in it. It's holographic. If we just get present enough, it's like one strawberry eaten slowly is the fucking unlock the mysteries of the universe, completely shake the hand of the goddess, you know. It's like right fucking there.
No, this is very interesting. What do I want to say about this? I've gotten all shy. Tantric TEDx. I like that. So we were saying tantric conversations. I like tantric TEDx. Let's go with that.
It should be tantric TED XXX, right?
Well, no, because this is what I got from just what you're saying. I was just thinking the experiences I've had where it has been very casual, it has been that sort of Tinder or the like kind of app. It really is the sense of, like you just said, is there's something that's really unfulfilling about that. And I just, you know, had to confront just recently that I'd never actually had sex sober, and like ever, and wondered about that because the idea of it meant that I would be feeling all sorts of things I've never felt before. Whereas there was some sort of safety in being able to get drunk and kind of lose myself in this kind of experience of that familiar way of being, like, of sexuality, right? And I kind of know what's going to happen. It seems safe. But the idea of being present in a moment like that, it actually just seemed like, well, it must be at some level, experience the idea of it being quite scary, like unfamiliar, or maybe more unfamiliar. So then it's ears on the screen.
No, it's intense intimacy, right? And if we don't have a really smooth and value-filled relationship with ourselves, then that level of intimacy is challenging, threatening, scary, and it's, you know. And yet, if it, you know, but it's also a process of bringing that to it. So when we're making love in that way, we're being loved, right? We're being loved. We're generating an incredibly powerful healing force, and we're letting the physical sensations through pleasure lines let love move all the way through our system, right? But if we're not present to that, we're not going to notice that we're being loved, right? It's almost a way of avoiding the receiving. It's like imagine someone saying you are about to have a 7-course gourmet taster fucking menu that's going to blow your mind, but we're going to just numb your tongue a little bit before you eat, so you can't taste quite as much of the pleasure. You'd be like, what the fuck is the point in that? You know, you can have a 7-course fuck fest, right? And you're going to numb yourself with alcohol. Like you're not going to feel it. You're not going to notice the love. You're not going to feel the pleasure in the same way. And of course, you're not going to feel the vulnerabilities. You're not going to feel the insecurities. Yet when we're in that state of intimacy and the sexual energy is there, it gives us the strength. It literally warms through our fears and heals them. This energy is deeply, deeply healing, you know, that level of presence. And for me, the more stuff I realize, the majesty of the present is filled with the pleasure that we seek without seeking it, the less I wanted to drink. And so what I've done, what I've taught, and what I teach my students, and it's never about giving up alcohol and drugs. It's never about that. It's just like the more conscious we become, the less we probably want to be separated from the moment, because the moment is where it's all at, you know?
Yeah. Do you know, just recently it's been about just under 6 months. I gave up alcohol. So I stopped drinking alcohol and I stopped drinking caffeine. I limited the amount of sugar I have and stopped having takeaway mostly, you know, very intermittently. And I noticed, hello, Jess Palmer. Hello. Hello, Rochelle Jade as well. Everyone loves your comment on the 7-course fuckfest, Tom. That was quite.
Aim to please.
Oh, you've got some one-liners on this show. So, you know, I noticed that by giving up, I did that because I had this experience of oneness at the retreat. Mm-hmm. I almost didn't want to lose that experience because it was just so beautiful and connected. And it was with myself, like it wasn't with anyone else. It was like it didn't require anyone else. I wasn't having a baby. I wasn't, you know, post-orgasm. I was just with myself, with this nourishing food, with the water, with the wind, with the earth. And I experienced that experience on my own. And it was so good. So I didn't want to lose it. So I'm like, I'm not drinking. You know, I don't want to drink. But slowly, it's creeped back in, this drive. I've noticed it in my business. And I'm like, oh, and then I don't meditate as much. And I've noticed that, you know, some of the practices that I've had, they get a bit slower. And I just, you know, like this slowly kind of creeps back in. And now I'm like, oh, I just want to drink again. Yeah. It's interesting. And I'm like, how do we interrupt that?
I mean, you know, what you're talking about there is the state of unity, the unity conscious, the non-dual state, right, is where we feel the present as it's full of the magic, it's full of the love, it's full of the glory of what we're seeking, and we get it because we're not seeking, right? And in those moments we feel expanded and connected. But when we then start walking around, we identify again with our role, our brand, our mission, our purpose, our body, our needs, our tax codes, our, you know, then we find ourselves, I mean, every sentence we use has a subject and an object. There's duality built in our conversational matrix. This makes it very difficult for us to stay in unified experience, you know. It's so much about our whole structure, confirms our separateness, confirms our individuality, our individuation process, you know. And it's like, and the state of separation, well, the state of connection is one of bliss, and the state of separation is one of anxiety and discomfort. So, of course, whilst we're operating in the separate self, we want to anesthetize our experience. I love I can't remember the name of the guy, but it you know, went viral on TED, where he's like, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
And in those connected states, the more connected I am and the more pleasure I feel in the present moment, the more pleasure I'm open to experiencing, the less I want to have a drink, the less I want to take drugs, the less I want to, because I don't want to get anything. I don't want anything to get in the way of me in the divine present experience, because that's the only thing that will satisfy my, in that place. Then, you know, magic happens, because if we can transcend our conditioning, our sense of separation, our sense of identity, our concerns about our brand, and actually just turn up and then have the courage to express what's coming through, then we become a voice box for that very field of consciousness. And that those flow states, and they're ultimately creative and ultimately fulfilling. And of course, whether we're expressing ourselves on a dance floor or flailing around in bed with somebody, you know, it goes from agenda, and it goes into this deep curiosity of exploration, where we're satisfied by how we're doing something, not by what it's achieving for us.
So how do we access that? Because this is interesting, right? Because I get exactly what you're saying, because I'm hearing it in my own living at the moment. You know, I went from waking up every morning, having my cacao practice, going outside, sitting down, talking to the plants, and being like, oh, you're so beautiful, little plant. Thank you for existing. Feeling connected to the trees and the birds, talking to them, looking like a crazy person, but not caring. And just so doing that every morning. And then over probably the course of the last 3 weeks, I know the decision I made, which was that I would look at Facebook before I did that. And now I used to have my practice before I turned on any social media. So I think you know, just realizing that now, but slowly it's kind of gotten away, and then other little things have creeped in, and now when I notice myself feeling less and less connected, and then wanting to numb out, like it's like the more separation I feel, it's like the more I want to feel separation. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like I've got to.
The tools we use to anesthetize the discomfort of our separation separate us further.
Yeah. Okay, I see. So it seems
we're not choosing separation, but we're choosing anesthetics that separate us further. You know.
So drug and sex addiction. So then that's why it's like, then we go porn, then we go sex addiction, then we go
orgasms as stress relief. You know, it becomes part of our medication process. You know, and it's goal orientated, and it's, you know, and it's convenience. You know, it's convenience coming. You know, and you know, and so it's just noticing. It's just essentially what I was taught by my kind of non-dualistic teacher, is that it's all about expansion or contraction. Follow the sensation of expansion. And, you know, what other people, you know, in Australia, I'm hearing, it's the full body fuck yes. You know, it's like that sensation within your whole system, like this is good, whole, complete, vibrating yesness. You know, it's like, where does my heart feel that? Now, the truth is, it's hard to maintain that perspective. You know, it's like I spent 2 years developing an app, and it's like it's down today, and my developer doesn't know why, hasn't known why for 24 hours, you know, and it's like, that's stressful, you know. And I work on it and let it go and release it, and I've got all of the tools, all of our spiritual tools essentially end up being a toolkit where we're able to, depending on what life throws at us, dares us to close our hearts. Life dares us to close our hearts and to think of ourselves as separate, and to become territorial, proprietorial, possessive, angry, jealous, you know, to live in the twatdom, you know, and to create havoc. And our work is to notice that early, you know, to catch the prodromal response, which is the thing that occurs before we disconnect, you know, to catch the thing before, and to get better at catching the pre-sensation of us wanting to numb out, or wanting us to feel separate, or wanting to go to anger or hatred. And to be able to just have those practices there built into our system, to ritualize our reality, to see everything as a metaphor, see everything as a reflection, to take every moment as the guru principle, so that in every interaction we have, the universe is saying, really, heart open, heart closed, how's that working out for you, kiddo? You know? And it's like, and for me, it's like, I think, you know what, if you want me to pick like a transformational piece which made all the difference, I would say it's boundary fitness. So when I used to be over people pleasing, you know, someone would ask me a question, will you give me a lift to the airport or this or that, you know, and I'd say yes, and I wouldn't know it was a no because my boundary fitness was so bad. About 2 weeks later, I'd be like, fuck me, I'm fucking annoyed about that. I didn't want to take them to the fucking airport, you know. It took me 2 weeks. That's not fitness, right? We want to get to a place where in the present moment, we truly know who we are, we truly know what we want, and we have the courage to say yes or no in keeping with what's being called for, not just for us, but for greater good. That's the alignment tools that enable us to be able to stay in alignment with who we are and what's been called for, to stay within the divine field of order. And then we're flowing, you know, and we're following the expansion, and we won't be willing to do anything that takes us away from that sensation expansion. Add a drink to it. It's not that there's anything intrinsically wrong with drinking, no way. But if we have a drink, it's like we have this golden sat nav. This golden sat nav that will tell us by expansion where things feel in alignment and good. So we make these beautifully aligned choices, and so everything starts flowing. We have more abundance, joy, more pleasure, more orgasmic experience of the present moment, right? And yet we have a drink and we're fucking blind. Our ability to know which way to go or what to do is massively diminished, and it's fine. There's no moral judgment on it. It's like pour vodka into your eyeball. I don't care. No one cares. There's no judgmental, divine, bearded guy deciding who's good and bad. Divinity is like sunshine. It shines on all things equally. It doesn't give a fuck what you do. There's no intrinsic meaning or moral code in your actions. It's just, does it feel good to you? Does it help you feel expansive? Does it make you feel aligned with your values? Does it bring joy? In my experience, this is very rarely anything that pollutes the system or takes us out of the moment or anesthetizes us from our present sensory experience. Generally makes all of that shit hard.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm just listening to you, right? And I'm thinking, this sounds really good, you know, and it sounds obviously like a way to be in life is to really indulge in that present moment and to, you know, does this bring me joy? And then to go to work on the fitness of your own boundaries. And then, you know what I'm like? I'm like, let's have a look at the living of my life. How do I live it? Because there's the ideal state in which you're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
And we've always talked about the duality and the fact that we're mad and egotistical anyway, and so we're going to put ourselves in these positions no matter what, because we need to remember how much we hate it. So, you know, so hello, Angie, good to see you, and Amanda Jackson, thank you, Rosie, thanks for tuning in. And then I think about, you know, I was in that state, in the oneness, and then I noticed things slip in. And now what I'm doing is I'm driving myself back to it. And that's not what I'm like, I even did it tonight. I was like, I've got to have a cacao. I've got to do this. It's just not working. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to go do a self-pleasure practice. And so I put on a bath and I put in my, you know, oils and my candles, and I'm like, I can't think, you know, there's so much I need to do right now. Have I done everything? I don't know. Oh my God, what am I doing? And then it's like, I'm like, now I'm driving myself back to the place, which is trying to get the result.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember a very long time ago, the very first clairvoyant I ever saw. I'd never seen a clairvoyant before. I'd never really been in touch with spiritual practice at all. And I was trying to give, at the time I was pregnant, and I was not pregnant, actually. I was trying to get pregnant, and I couldn't. And I was having unsuccessful attempts at getting pregnant. And she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I've read all the research. I know what to eat. I know how much fitness I need to do. I'm going to yoga. I'm eating this for breakfast, this. I'm going and gardening for half an hour every day. And she's like, this is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
hearing all that.
So I said, what's the problem? And she said, it's a way of being. They're just ways to get, you know, that might give you access to that way of being. But you're turning them into a goal. Like, and I remember her saying that, and she's like, well, what would you suggest? And she went, go get wasted. Right. And I did, and I fell pregnant.
Yeah. Well, listen, what you're talking about, and listen, for some people, right, who have got an overactive superconscious, right, which is the inner critic, it's the inner parent voice, it's the must do the stuff, flow charts, do everything possible, right? Booze is amazing for that stuff because it just knocks out the superconscious, all of that inner critic, For some people, it is actually a spiritual resolution, It enables people to get beyond their inhibitions and connect finally, right? But it can really help. I mean, you're talking Milton Erickson, the world's greatest hypnotherapist, without any doubt. He famously cured a couple of their infertility issues by he met with a couple that was really similar to that, and he cured them with 3 words. A hypnotic process, 3 words. So they rolled out all that same shit that you did, all the stuff they were doing, all the tension they were bringing to get pregnant, and he was like, I think I've got the solution for you. And they're like, what is it? He's like, fuck for fun.
Fuck for fun. Yeah, and it's and this is actually this is what I think you're this is what, oh my god, someone's just like, oh my god, Jess, we'll buy the book, just chill and relax. And I was like, I know, right? Because you go out and you'll get a shelf of all the fucking remedies of how to get pregnant, and I'm like, right, reading them, doing them methodically, but actually that's not the thing. It's so not. It's like that worked for one person because that brought them back to their oneness, and so now they've written a book hoping other people get oneness, and then someone like me who's quite methodical and structured picks it up and just butchers the crap out of it, right? And it's like, actually, what will bring you back to oneness right now? We just said, we got on this call, and I got concerned because I put orgasm in the title, that it was somehow going to, impact I haven't even put it in one of my groups because I'm too afraid to talk about it. The business group, I haven't even put it in there. But, it's like, actually, it's not just fuck for fun. It's create a business for fun. It's just go and have a relationship for fun. It's like, whatever you're doing, if you're trying to make a goal out of any of it, I even said love people for fun. You try to make a goal out of love, that's a sure way to kill it off. You try to make a goal out of sex, it's a sure way to never get a really good orgasm. Or one of those orgasms where you're like just about to orgasm and it doesn't really work out. It's like really disappointing. That's what you end up getting. Yeah, just live for fun. Have these kind of conversations for fun where, here I am with the most enlightened man. He talks about Hitler and his parts of his body. And now tonight, it's got vodka in his eyeballs, and what was the other one?
7-course buckfest, I think, came in.
7-course buckfest. Hello, Sally. So good to see you. Andrea. Rihanna.
Hey, Sally.
Thank you for joining in. Yes. So it's like, just like we're saying, it's actually all of it is for fun. You just reminded me. I forgot that this is all
meaningless.
Again. It's empty and meaningless.
Yeah. For a long time, I believed that purpose was about, so my model is about peace, power, and purpose. We need all 3 to enjoy success and happiness, right? And for a long time, I believed purpose was about like make good and then do good, like contribute, give back, right? And I believed that. I now don't believe it. I believe purpose is about loving yourself enough to create a life that you adore, And so that as you walk around with that joy and that happiness, your smile and that joy is your purpose. Now, if we do that, and we're that person, it's most likely we'll do work that we love in such a way that we'll be absolutely stellar at it, world class. So we will have abundance. We will have more money than we need. We will have more time than we need. And with that time, is it highly likely that we will be philanthropic? Yes. Will we be charitable? Most likely. But that's not the point. The point is not that. That's a symptomology of being free and of being connected and understanding the interconnection. It's like our purpose is not philanthropy. That's a natural consequence of being happy. Yeah. And understanding the interconnection and the interbeing, which we're all connected, that we're all brothers and sisters, and that we intrinsically understand our happiness is directly linked to the happiness of others. like not just philosophically, but actually practically connected to it. So it's the logical extension of the oneness experience, but it's not the purpose. The purpose is loving yourself enough to create a life you fucking adore, and letting the joy and the twinkle in your eye and the spring in your step light up the world. That's our purpose. And all of the philanthropic stuff follows in behind that, probably, but it doesn't have to. There is no moral code. Non-duality and the liberation of oneness is getting beyond the idea that there are shoulds, there are musts, there are needs, there are things to achieve, because that operates with the idea that there is good and bad, and that we need more good, and we must resist all bad, change the bad and more good. And it's like, none of that's true. It's all arbitrary. And most of the time when we get really into what's good and bad, it ends up putting us into a state where more bad things happen for us and others. And so this is not also about just becoming negligent to the woes of the world, but it's about being able to engage here, realizing the best way we can change the world is one heart at a time, with more love, more joy, and integrity in our actions, and accountability in how we do business, and just raising the vibration, of course. So is there whole sorts of like embedded activism in that? Totally. But it's just simpler than that. It's like, do it because you fucking love it, and it's joyful. And with the presence, we get the bliss we seek. It's because it's not about where we're going, it's about how we do it in that way. Then each moment, like you could take your hand right now and you could stroke it with your other hand right now in a way where you are literally holding the hand of your beloved, right? And you could bring such tender care to that, like when you first held the hand of your child. And if you really paid attention to that, you would notice that you probably don't treat yourself with that love and respect and joy. That if you spent half an hour, like with your favorite person on earth, caressing their body and just feeling, allowing yourself to notice how just paying attention to the contours of their neck or the contours of their hand fills you with bliss. So you could do that with yourself right now. We're totally trying to experience bliss that we don't get to experience it.
Yeah, well, that's essentially what a self-pleasure practice is. For anyone that doesn't know, a self-pleasure is not a really nice way of saying masturbation. It's actually, it can involve that, but it's actually mostly about that. It's about touching yourself. It's about touching yourself in a way that you can experience all of the pleasure that you love getting from someone else, from yourself. But it's not always sexual, like it at all. It's actually sometimes mostly not. But it's 100%.
I agree. But what was interesting for me with me experimenting with that was how actually I didn't relate to my touch in that way. Like I was a long way away.
I never had.
I was a long way away from relating to myself in that way and being with myself in that way,
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ree is asking who is speaking. This is Tom Forts-Mayer, the Tom Forts-Mayer, most enlightened man on the planet.
Can you please stop saying that? He's just like watching me feel really awkward and uncomfortable when you say
I know, I love it.
Yeah. Hi, Ree. Hello.
This is Ree. And yeah, what was I going to say? Where were we with this? There was something.
I don't know. Sally's touching herself, so I got distracted.
Okay. That'll do it. That's right. So in hang on, let me get present. In terms of the conversation for how we bring this into, so I'm all about tools. As much as I love being able to talk about this and indulge in the sort of psychology of this, which I absolutely love. I love tools. It's like, yeah, but then we're human beings, and you even said that you go through this and you're having these moments and you're not sure how to actually bring yourself back. How do you? What is your practice for? Here I am being driven. Like today, I went and did a self-pleasure practice before, but it didn't bring me back. What actually brought me back was this conversation. To go, oh, that's right. Oh, we're just here for fun. Oh, that's right. This is just to bring myself back to joy. This is the how do you, apart from what I can see is having evolution solutions with Tom Forts-Mayer every week. Everyone just has to tune into this. But apart from that, how do we bring ourselves back to that state of joy?
Well, I mean, I'll share with you my favorite and quickest practices, right? You know, to be honest with you, the kind of conscious self-pleasuring, that's still a journey for me. That one is mixed. You know, sometimes that helps, and sometimes I feel like I'm not able to do it, and I find it frustrating, right? So,
yeah.
And it can easily dip into a kind of masturbatory kind of like stress relief moment, which is not what I'm going for, right?
Yeah.
And my favorite, you know, for me, part of my journey with it is there's a part of me that wants to, you know, learn everything and know everything and have all the facts and be able to reference all of the different spiritual lineages. And it's very tempting to get really heady about knowledge and to believe if I could know more and have more facts and I can have more cool quotes memorized and all, you know, and for a long time was driven by a thirst for knowledge, because I spent up until 27, I didn't care about anything. I'd read a handful of books. And then after my epiphany, I became obsessed with the human condition and then started having a voracious appetite for learning. But after a while, I realized that was preventing me. Again, it was another form of when I get more learned, then I'll have more authority. So for me now, I'm much less interested in reading technical nonfiction. And the thing that reconnects me back in is I just love reading the Indian masters, you know, the oneness masters, the meditation teachers, the people who experienced enlightenment and who had followings, and their writings and their dialogues, so their satsangs, that stuff. I can just read a few lines of that. I'm like, yeah, nothing matters. It's all oneness. It's all fine. Okay, just like I'm just striving, you know. It's just catching that, but it's also being aware of things to cut out of your life. I mean, one of the simplest ways to get out of the crazy drive reality is like never read a magazine ever again, ever.
Oh yeah,
there's a pure aspiration and fear loading. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, it's like steroids in your fucking jugular for your ego. I mean, it's just, and so it's recognizing that for me now, I really love being on Facebook in my community spaces. And I really love looking at the quotes, for example, Sally, Jess Palmer, yours, that stuff. You know, I've got the people that I follow because their stuff lights me up, connects me, reminds me, you know. If I get into a scroll, forget about it. I'm in the dopamine game. I'm being completely manipulated. My worldview is being manipulated, and something hollow is happening inside my soul where I'm comparing, I'm contrasting, I'm feeling less adequate. It's like, it's recognizing in every area, bit by bit, what is making me expand and what's making me contract. And then just trying very gently to make sure that our life has got more of the things that makes us feel more expanded, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree, Emily. The magazines are good for cutting up for vision boards, you know. Maybe. Although there's an app now that you can get called Litex, so you don't even really need the magazine. You can just get images from the internet and put them on. They're very good.
Oh, that's good. I see. Sally's asked me, is it Papaji? My favorite is I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's just like, that is my favorite oneness text. It's just my favorite book. It's just takes me straight there. Really humble dude who's a shopkeeper, kind of kept being a shopkeeper. Then he'd go upstairs and people come from all over the world to hear his chat. And he's just like, keeps it simple, but his take on it is magical.
Yes. See, mine too. Sally's like, mine too. You too. I don't know who what is it?
Papaji.
Papaji? Yeah, is he?
I've heard of him. I haven't read any of his stuff.
Okay. He's an author. So, and
they're
guru.
They're just gurus, and people have just written down their responses. So you see, it's people ask questions from a place of drive, from a place of fear, and from a place of separation, and their answers are just so, you know, the books are basically collations of their coolest answers, you know, and so
nice.
It's just, and so they come, you know, you don't need to read the whole book. You can just pick them up and there's a question and an answer. And you can basically see it's a question from ego and an answer from the divine. So it's just a way of jumping straight back into connection.
I think that's beautiful. I don't tend to have those sort of epiphanies. I think I do, but I don't know. Sometimes I do, I suppose, one-on-one. But I tend to like, what brings me joy is making fun of my own humanity as a way of others being able to see their own.
Yeah.
You know, so today I haven't written it. It's something that I'm going to put up there. I figured out today that if I want my kids to stop throwing a tantrum, I'm going to have to stop. You know, it's these kind of quotes, and you know, you've seen some of them where it's like actually making fun of my own duality, in my own polarization that's going on with myself.
Totally.
You know, I'm so enlightened. Next minute, I'm, yelling at someone in traffic, or, meeting people who I surround myself by a lot of very cool people who are very humble and compassionate, but then sometimes they get a bit into themselves and a bit like serious. And then I make fun of them and they don't always laugh, but eventually they do. And it's all that humble. Like I was just writing that down as you're saying it. It's like, we've decided that being humble makes you look like a very good person.
Yeah, I'm the most humble person I know. Right?
I am the most humble person, and spirituality is on the rise now. So I've got so many crystals here, and so I surround myself with crystals so that people know just how spiritual I am,
Yes.
Like,
I listen to music that I want people to actually be listening to. Yeah.
That's right.
So, you talked about hold on. You talked about getting practical, right? And where we're going to be short time, and I want to challenge you.
Are we? Okay.
So you said you haven't had sex sober.
Oh, dear. Yes, I haven't.
You want to know the best way to connect to spirit and bring yourself back to the divine edge of present conscious magic. I set you the challenge.
I've set myself the challenge. So
now you just need a playmate.
Yes. So
okay,
I have.
So we need some volunteers here because this is
Oh my God. Tom Portsmayer.
Well, you said you wanted to get practical.
Oh gosh. I'm okay, thank you. Okay. I'm okay. I'm not saying anything else now. Now I'm getting embarrassed. Hang on.
You can take a moment.
Hang on. Okay. I'm okay. I'm just sorry.
Is that a self-pleasure moment?
No. Oh my God. I'm just saying I'm okay. I have self-imposed that I'm not going to be drinking for, and definitely not. Christy, hi. Hi, Christy. I'll take Christy up on her offer. Okay, there you go.
Excellent. Good work.
She's volunteered. But oh my God, I am now so thrown. Hang on, let me just come back.
Well, don't come back. There's no fun unless I at least cause some trouble. But jokes aside, right? I mean, well, not jokes aside, jokes included. I just, for me, what we've been talking about is that is bringing that presence to everything, and realizing that the magic and majesty. What you put her waving hand up on the screen. Everyone could see, right? But it's not about the sex. It's about bringing that presence. It's like to every moment and playing with that. The idea that we want to obfuscate, we want to distract, we want to add value, we want to accelerate. The ego structure is about creating goals and looking at everything about efficiency, and it's more good stuff and less bad stuff. And how can I accelerate? And how can I have more of it? And how is the whole thing is this exhausting hunt and search that takes us away from the very thing we're looking for, which is what you've been saying. And so, yes, there are instant fixes, pick up a cool book, have a dance, have some conscious, bath time, it's self-pleasuring time, it's like, and actually it's, the kind of the term nirvana, right? In the direct translation of it, right, is extirpation, right? Extirpation, which is when instead of like blowing out a candle, that's when you put it in a space where there is no oxygen. Okay, so the oxygen would the flame would get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The idea of a kind of transcending those parts of ourselves is they have to be extirpated. It's not something that we suffer. It's over time, bit by bit, recognizing the Facebook scrolling, reading magazines, comparing ourselves to others, all of these actions and activities that we may do that just bit by bit make it really hard for us to be present. Looking at all of the incredible mechanisms that we get exposed to, where people are spending millions of pounds to make us feel less adequate, to feel like we need to move faster, and just to be able to get our feet on the ground, reconnect with nature, be seasonal. Like you said, every day you're going out drinking cacao, getting your feet on the ground, saying hello to the birds. It's like, that's more of that stuff, right? What your nature, just trying to return to the caves as much as naturally as possible,
Yeah, and integrating it. I do really believe in integrating it. There is a way of having it all integrate itself. So it's not like we have to spend our whole lives out in nature, but definitely have a place for it.
Well, that's how Tantra arrived in the world, right? So prior to that, the Hindu idea was that you are either a householder, or you were who was spiritual, or you were a completely fully committed spiritual person who had no possessions at all. And often when the householder got to 50, his kids were grown, everything was done, and then then he could go and pursue his spiritual life and go and live in the caves, right? And it was all about asceticism. So it was about transcending our physical desires, saying no to our body, living off lentils, sitting in a cave in the dark, right? And communing with the divine. Tantra came along and went, the body is not the barrier to spirituality. Pleasure is not the barrier to spirituality. It's an access point. And we don't need to not have kids, and we don't need not to be in the world. Tantra is the bridge between a lived practical spirituality, whereby which we are deeply connected and of the world and in the world. It's way harder.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go and sit in a monastery and feel connected, It's about
going, absolutely.
Which is fine if you want to do that,
Well, I do.
For me, I'm much more interested in a complicated chess game. I want to play chess against an opponent that's clever and good. I'm here to expand the edge of consciousness, and for me, I want to be in the world and of the world and still not be polluted by the madness within it, and to lovingly bring out that madness from me within it without judgment of anybody, because it's there in me, and play at how do I maintain that connection in a world that is daring me to close my heart. And how can I become very clear of how do I stay organic? How do I stay open? How can I enjoy the pleasures of the world without being corrupted by those parts in my mind that want to jump on the idea that I'm not okay as I am, that there's somewhere to get to and I need to get there fast.
That's so beautiful. Of course. But you don't want to make it a goal.
No, right? That's the thing. That's the part. That's the thing. It's like how do I not bring a goal to the part of me that wants to make a goal out of anything, right? And that's why,
I know.
That's why it's like bathing, right? You're not going to just get this and stop. You don't have one shower and go, right, we're good, I'm clean, right? There are these practices. We have to clean our spirit. We have to deepen our connection. We have to refresh our remembrance of our connection, Yeah. And absolutely. So when you spoke to that, it's conversations, it's community. Community.
It really is. Like when you said that, one of the visions that I've always seen since social media, and I know you do need to go. We'll sort of close on this.
I'm okay.
Yeah, you are? Okay. Yeah. It's that, firstly, not all of social media I'm a big fan of, right? There are just parts of it, you just pointed to it. It's become another vessel in which people can be completely tapped out of their own sense of self. But in another sense, it's creating these communities of people that empower each other in some senses. Like around me, I have an incredible community of people that have the most beautiful, encouraging, joyful, sometimes inappropriate, but so funny. It's like this array of, Kezia's posts, which are just hysterical and inappropriate. And she calls herself the heart-centered narcissist. And then I've got, these beautiful renditions of connection to God from Shan, and Shannon Major, and then you've got, like it's all this sort of stuff that I'm like, not all of it that I really connect personally with, but what I can see is that they love it. It brings them joy. It's so uniquely expressed for them. Like it's just like their joy is expressed, and I love that I've got all these people around me that are just expressing what brings them joy. And social media has made it possible for me to connect overseas, like even with you, which wasn't possible before. Before, when we just had the internet, it's made these kind of communities possible.
Totally.
Which I think is really great. So that's pretty much what I love about social media. But on the other sense, it's again making it that it doesn't become then a goal for me to have to go onto social media, or being on social media is the place in which I have to get this fix. It's like it's both. It's always this paradox. It's both really, really beneficial, and yet at the same time, if I end up using it to get somewhere or to get some result, I'm killing off the actual intention that I have for myself.
Totally agree. Everything is about remembering that we're perfect as we are. We have everything we need, that we're a unique and connected part of a loving universe. Nothing is outside of us. Nothing is required. And yet it's common in the world that we live, which celebrates individuation and separation, that we just need reminders. And if your practice isn't just making you feel more full, then it's missing something. It's about finding those parts that feel less than, healing those, and then just remembering that we're perfect as we are, as is everybody else, and we're all on a journey, and the journey doesn't matter. It's the experience of the present moment. It's got everything we need to have the satisfaction that we think will happen some other time in some other place when we get some other thing. It's remembrance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I think Sally and Amanda here are having conversations about marrying you. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
So now they're having conversations about marrying the first boyfriends that introduced them to Tantra.
Okay, all right. I just saw parts of it and I'm like, what's happening? Okay.
Listen, I do have to dash now.
You do.
I do now. Yeah, love to everybody, and thank you so much for checking in. I can't see, a lot of them says Facebook users, but Sally, Jess, Leslie, Chris, all sorts, lots of people. Ree Butler,
Leslie, we got Amanda. Who else have we got? Rihanna. Anyone else? Andrea, who has checked in. Anyone that we've missed? Thank you so much for being a part of Evolution Solutions. Again, if you have any thoughts on any topics you'd like us to explore, we would love to. Please let us know. But until next week, thank you very much for tuning in. Is Tom single? Is Tom single? No, he's married with 4 children. He's like fully got a ring on it. Although, he does, Anyway.
Yeah, we're monogamish. And
they're monogamish.
Yeah, which works well for us.
They have agreements.
We can talk more about that next time, maybe.
That's right. All right. Love you guys. See you later. Bye. Bye.